It's Monday, so it's the National Football Show with your boy Dan Sileo. Hope everyone had a great weekend as we are motoring towards the start of the NFL season. Do you realize, let me get to date here exactly. I have that number here. The Dallas Cowboys show up to training camp in roughly 8 days. 8 days, the Cowboys will be in camp getting ready for the Hall of Fame game. And then the Steelers, they're going to report normal at July 28th in their normal date. And then they play a game 8 days later, the Hall of Fame game, where everybody's going to be this year as really we kick off the 2021 NFL season, which I think is going to be one of the great years that we have seen in recent memory because of all the storylines coming out of the pandemic, going in, Dak Prescott, big money, man. There are so many great stories that are going to be going around the National Football League. We are packed once again, and I got to tell you something about the National Football Show. I'm so throttled the way we get people on the program, especially Hall of Fame voters. Nate Davis from USA Today is going to join us here in a couple minutes. We'll do that at around 4:15 Eastern time. Then in the second hour, our NFL insider that you will see each and every single week here on the National Football Show, our friend Jason Call, Pro Football Hall of Fame voter, fan-sided, will be with us. That'll be an hour two at 5:30 Eastern time. So let me start out with something that's trending on Twitter here. I always like to talk what people are talking about and then weave it into my world, my sandbox, football. So SAS, no, not ASS, but SAS. Stephen A. Smith made a comment about Shohei Ohtani, and I'm going to paraphrase this, says that the reason that Shohei Ohtani cannot really be the face of Major League Baseball is because he needs an interpreter, and it'd be tough to sell merchandise and, to communicate with the fans. I saw that, and hey, on its merit, I was just talking to my boy Krause, on its merit, I get where he's coming from. You want to know why a lot of the European athletes don't resonate in America? Like, look at Roger Federer. When people think of the greatest tennis player of all time, you think Federer's name comes up? No. It's Pete Sampras. Americans root for Americans. Okay? That's in anything. Michael Phelps was considered the greatest athlete in Rio. Not really. Usain Bolt and the records that he broke and the things that he did, I don't know, man. Fastest guy in the world versus being the fastest swimmer in the world. I'll take the fastest dude in the world any day as your greatest athlete. But he's not American. And it's something that this country has always been guilty of. We don't really root for people around the world. It's one of the reasons why soccer doesn't resonate in this country. Messi's a massive star around the world. By the way, he wins Copa America with his Argentina team. I guess it's great, but to me, it means nothing. But around the world, that was a legendary moment in his career. His final time that he finally wins a major championship. It's big news around the world. You got Cristiano Ronaldo. All those guys are massive stars around the world. In America, he's not in the same conversation with Kobe or Tom Brady or LeBron or any of those guys because we root for Americans. So on its merit, you kind of get where he's going. But we don't live in that type of culture right now. We live in the Twitter age, Facebook age. We live in a very polarizing time when conservatives and liberals are battling one another for what's right and wrong and the way you should live your life. We can't even debate on whether or not to wear a mask or not and the political identity you get when you wear a mask. You think that's going to land in the right place? And I'll give you something else on landing in the right place here. So remember when Colin Kaepernick made a comment about social injustice and how he kneeled for the national anthem? Where did that land? You know where that landed? That landed on the side of him disrespecting the flag. Not one intention, according to Colin Kaepernick, was meant to disrespect the flag. It was about social injustice. That's not where it landed. Why is that? Well, football fans are middle America and the South. They're not California and New York. They are not. They are not those liberal states. That's not where the fan bases are, man. Football is a middle America and Southern sport, college and pro. And so when you say something that's controversial like that, you're hoping it lands where your intentions are. I tell people all the time when you're doing sports talk radio or sports broadcasting, make sure you write your topic out. Make sure you want it to land here where your intention is, not over there where somebody can interpret it a different way. So it's now being interpreted that it's a racist comment by Stephen A. Smith, that he needs to learn English. This is how, you want to know how it's landing? He needs to learn English for him to be a star in this country. Whether you agree with what I just said, that's how it's landed. That's how it's landed. My problem with that is not so much what he said is, it's how we pick and choose which guys can say comments like that. I made a mistake in 2012, and it was horrible. I got fired for it. I was at a place for 15 years. 8 shares in the morning. I was number 2 in the market, 12 plus, not just in men. I destroyed it. Nobody could beat me. Only Bubba the Love Sponge was beating me. And by like tenths of a point. And I was on an AM all by myself. Yeah. And I just said, sign those 3 monkeys. Just like that. Got called in the office and was fired 2 weeks later. It was a mistake. I even know Jonathan Vilma because Jonathan Vilma, I guess, came in for a workout. I think it was Courtney Finnegan, who was also in, I guess, someone else, I forget. And it was just, this was a produced segment on ESPN's First Take. And I was just talking again to the guys before we went on. Man, in today's landscape, you know, we're not in the land of Oz here where everything is perfect. We're in a cancel culture right now. You make comments like that, you're going to get your ass handed to you. That is, without a doubt, again, not knowing the room. It's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. But like most anything, and I say this about Stephen A. Smith, he's the sports version of Don Lemon. These guys are race baiters. So I will say this about Ohtani, though. Ohtani's my favorite baseball player since Barry Bonds. This guy, he's going to be now the starter for the American League on the Hill. And he's also going to hit, I believe, in the leadoff spot. This guy is the best baseball player I have seen since Barry. But then you have to add the dimension of this. Holy cow, man. If you're playing guys like Manny Machado, $30 million, and you're paying guys like Fernando Tatis Jr., 30, and Bryce Harper, 34, and Nolan Arenado, 35. What in the world is Shohei Ohtani worth? It's incredible. Every time he plays, he had a 480-foot home run, I think this past Friday. This guy's incredible, man. He makes you stop and lean forward. He's one of those athletes that makes you lean forward. You know, I'm going to make a comparison. You know, in my world of football, the only other athlete I've ever, I mean, would we not agree with this? What's more impressive? What Shohei Ohtani's doing or what Bo Jackson did? Bo Jackson was an all-pro running back for the Raiders before he got injured in that playoff game against the Bengals. And he was also an all-star baseball player with the Kansas City Royals. Remember, he was in the booth, and I think President Reagan was in the booth, and Vince Scully was calling the all-star game at the time, and Bo Jackson hit that home run. I think it was in KC, too, if I'm not mistaken. I thought it was in KC. And he hit this mammoth home run as the president was talking, and Vince Scully was talking. I've played against Bo Jackson. Bo Jackson is the greatest athlete. By the way, I'm going to talk to Nate Davis about this too. What Shohei Ohtani is doing, being a superstar pitcher and a superstar hitter for the Los Angeles Angels is must-see television. But some of you guys that may be too young, Bo knows. I think sometimes people out of sight, out of mind. You guys got to go to YouTube and just YouTube Bo Jackson. Bo Jackson running dudes over. Bo Jackson was a Heisman Trophy winner for Auburn. I played against him in college. Sick athlete. The two greatest athletes I've ever played against were Deion Sanders and were Bo Jackson. Deion was a star baseball player and a Hall of Fame football player. And make no mistake about it, Deion was great at both, but he was actually a Hall of Fame NFL cornerback. Nobody threw to Deion's side of the field for a decade. I mean, that guy ran 4 flats. I mean, I had a couple years where my Canes teams played against his Florida State Seminole teams, and it just was incredible on how great of an athlete he was. However, Bo Jackson, you know what's sad about Bo? You know, the toll took its, it took it out basically on his body. And Bo Jackson was just one of the greatest athletes I've ever seen. All right, all that being said, guy that I really admire and a guy's work that I love at USA Today is our friend Nate Davis, and he joins us here now on the National Football Show. Nate, I was just talking about Bo Jackson. You know, Shohei Ohtani's in the news. He's going to be the starting pitcher. And I don't think people realize or remember because, out of sight, out of mind a little bit, as great as Shohei Ohtani is as an athlete, I know that you were covering the sport when Bo burst onto the scene here, and I played against Bo when he was in college and in the pros. I got to tell you, man, I've never seen an athlete like Bo Jackson. But can you see the comparisons a little bit on what Ohtani's doing with the Angels and what Bo meant when he came into both baseball and football?
Yeah, sure, Dan. I mean, I think it's a natural thing. I mean, I'm old enough to have had a double threat Bo Jackson poster on my wall, but I can also remember when people didn't really take him that seriously when he picked the Royals over the Buccaneers when he first skipped out on the Bucs back in '86. But he was a legit baseball player and quickly, and maybe ahead of his time as a guy that was mashing and striking out otherwise. But when I think of two sports stars, I think of Bo Jackson and Deion Sanders, and I think of them as some of the best athletes that we've ever seen in our lifetimes. I'm not sure Shohei Ohtani's in that conversation, but certainly what he's doing is unique and really impressive.
Absolutely, I think baseball has a face of their sport right there in Shohei Ohtani. All right, I want to get into, and I'm always gonna be kind of, Nate, on the players' side with this, and I want to get your spin on how you think the NFL is going to handle this moving forward this year. So it's coming out now that Josh Allen and Dak Prescott, the Dallas Cowboys starting quarterback, was also asked a question on whether or not that they were vaccinated. And he says that's a private matter. Josh Allen is saying he's not vaccinated and he'll move forward with the protocols on what's being put in front of him and the Bills. I guess Cole Beasley has made a statement on it as well. And yet the NFL is telling its fans that some facilities you have to be vaccinated when you go into it. How do you look at the highest paid guy in the history of the league, the face of the Dallas Cowboys, won't tell you whether or not he's vaccinated? Why do the fans have to prove that they're vaccinated going into these facilities? I mean, it seems like a double standard here in how the NFL is looking at this. How do you think they move forward with this?
I think that Dan will probably move forward just as you said they will. I mean, and it's a different set of rules for the players, and obviously they're getting paid for specific talents that fans don't have. But even within team buildings, I mean, most of these tier 1 guys, assistant coaches, support staff, that kind of thing, these guys all basically have to be vaccinated, and the rates within the league on those guys is very close. it's in the mid 90s, that kind of thing. There's very few guys that, I know there has been word that maybe one or two assistant coaches are trying to kind of push back against that. But even if they did, that really limits their ability to do coaching on the field, meetings, that kind of stuff. But it's going to be an interesting dynamic, within teams, because I think it's going to be a competitive advantage for teams with vaccinated players. And certainly, Buffalo, as you said, has been in the news, and Cole Beasley has been very outspoken. But it's also going to be interesting to see how some of these conversations go once these guys realize that, hey, I'm stuck in the hotel when we travel. I might be flying on a different plane when we go somewhere. And oh, by the way, I got to stay home for my bye week and get tested every day, while my teammates who are vaccinated can go on vacation or do whatever they want to do. So I think it's a topic that's going to be ongoing. Certainly some players, probably Cole Beasley at the head of the list, are going to have more to say and maybe be more opposed to it. But I think probably you're going to see the far majority of guys probably falling in line just because it's going to make their lives easier.
Nate, do you think this could slow up the contract extension or the new contract for Josh Allen? I mean, they really love the kid. The kid has done everything right since he came out of Wyoming. I know the post that he made on his Twitter page when he was a young guy, he's put that in his rearview mirror. Everybody's in love with the guy. Something like this, non-starter here when it comes to looking at extending him?
I think so. I mean, I think that's going to happen. I mean, the Bills have shown that they're an organization that's about continuity, that's about team building. They've been very selective in free agency, bringing in guys that clearly fit into the Sean McDermott, Brandon Beane kind of category. And I think probably the Bills would you think really get that contract done sooner than later, because you would only think the price tag on Josh Allen is going to go up the longer they wait. And they also, even if there was an issue, Brandon Beane's got to be careful, because I know he talked earlier this offseason that maybe if a guy's not vaccinated, maybe that's a guy that gets cut from the roster this summer. When it comes down to it, and that can't be legally a reason that you do that kind of thing. So, but regardless, I doubt that plays a very, very big part in their decision making, because I think it's probably more of a temporary, short-term consideration.
Nate, I know you had a chance to talk to Bobby Wagner, and let me throw this at you here. All the things that were going on in the offseason with Seattle and Russell Wilson and kicking tires, and I'm tired of getting hit, and it was a junior version of what's going on in Green Bay. I took it like this. Maybe you see it different. I think he's built up so much equity in that organization that he gets a hall pass on something like this, and that everything's going to be cool. Players are going to be okay with it. Look at what Seattle did. They went out. I think they got another wideout in the draft. They upgraded the offensive line. They're doing the things that he wants. And now he's saying, hey, I want to be a Seahawk for life. So that whole scenario could tee off some people, because you did throw the O-lineman under the bus when you said, I've been the most sacked guy since I've been the starting quarterback and I came into the league. That's throwing the 5 guys under the bus. However, it is him, and he's built that equity up. You think everything moving forward is all good there?
I think it's take it year by year, Dan. I mean, it's not the first time we've kind of heard Russell Wilson's name floated out there as maybe a guy that maybe would move on one day. But it's such an interesting double-sided coin. I mean, yes, he's right. He gets hit a lot, but I think Russell Wilson also brings a lot of that on himself, because he doesn't get rid of the ball either. And he's always a guy that does that Fran Tarkenton thing and wants to, make something out of nothing every time, which is admirable in his game. But it's also the reason he gets hit and sacked a lot is because he invites it to a certain degree. As for moving forward, I think clearly the contract, he's kind of tied to the team for this year. Next year and the year after, if the Seahawks want to move on, I think it becomes more certainly financially feasible for them to do so. And just there's so many times you want to say never in the NFL, but I've learned you just never say never. I mean, you never think Tom Brady's going to play in a different uniform, or Peyton Manning, or Aaron Rodgers, which we'll see how that goes as well. But I think anything is always on the table, and it's such an interesting dynamic with Russell too that. For years, particularly when he was a young player on that team, and it was more of a veteran-driven, Richard Sherman and Cam Chancellor and those guys, I'm not really sure how well he dovetailed with a lot of those guys. I mean, it is more Russell's team now. He's obviously the established guy. He's the guy we talk about when we talk about the Seahawks. But, Pete Carroll always likes to talk about graduating his guys too. It's hard to fathom, graduating Russell Wilson if you don't have what's your alternative plan at quarterback, given what he does for that team. But like I said, I never say never when it comes to the NFL.
You think Wilson's the quarterback the entire tenure of Pete Carroll? I mean, do you think Carroll moves him, or do you think Carroll, he's 70 years old, and I'm not saying he's the youngest 70, Nate, I've ever seen in my life. The guy runs around like he was running around when he was at Southern Cal, jumping off the 10-meter board and all that. He's a fun dude to be around, but, I mean, he is 70. We're talking about a guy getting up there now, and you think Russell Wilson retires the Seattle Seahawks?
You would think so, but you know, and they historically, you know, the Cortez Kennedys and the Walter Joneses and the guys that, you know, don't get enough appreciation because they had to play up there, and you know, we didn't talk about him. I mean, Bobby Wagner, I talked to him about the same thing. I mean, is there anybody more underappreciated in the NFL?
Absolutely,
than Bobby Wagner, who's going to be first ballot, you know, Hall of Fame, in my opinion. But to your point, Dan, I do think also that Pete Carroll doesn't necessarily want to go through a rebuild at his age and given the nucleus. That being said, you know, is there an opportunity a year from now or whatever that they say, well, hey, maybe we can trade Russell Wilson and get Baker Mayfield and some draft picks in return. And then maybe we're more of a run-oriented office, which is what Pete Carroll wants to be anyway. Or you know, is there a scenario where, hey, maybe we can trade Russell Wilson for Aaron Rodgers and, you know, everybody's happy or whatever. I mean, I'm not saying that's going to happen. I'm just saying I think if the Seahawks are going to move him, I think they would probably look to get into some situation where they're not necessarily turning to the draft and pinning their hopes on an unproven guy, first round, whatever, and hoping it can go back to what it was. But I mean, this also is not really, I think, the team Pete Carroll envisioned either. And I think he said it last year, that game with the Buffalo Bills that I want to say Seattle lost 44-34. I mean, Pete Carroll wants to be Legion of Boom 2013. Let's run the ball and suffocate him with defense. He doesn't want to win 45-41. That's kind of what they are right now.
Let me throw this at you. Tell me if you subscribe or you disagree with this here. You know, I heard Trey Lance, the third pick by the 49ers, say this past weekend. He's like, I'll tell you what, this Jimmy Garoppolo is the best player and best teammate I've ever been around. He is such a great guy, and it's just marvelous to hear his input on what he's saying to me, and I just love being around him. You know, and then I heard Alex Smith a couple weeks ago saying, you know, one of the things that I was really fortunate was that Andy Reid was in constant contact with me when they were going to look for a quarterback in the draft. It was almost weekly, they were telling me. And when they ended up drafting Patrick Mahomes, Mahomes has said Alex Smith is one of the most important people in his life and how he made that transition for him. And then you look at what's going on in Green Bay. Those two other places, Nate, had communication with the guy that they were talking to on what they were doing. Green Bay let him find out, Aaron Rodgers, on television, that they were taking a player. Is that right now the crux of what this whole problem is about, is just a lack of communication that goes on in Green Bay? Because, look, it's precedent. Look at the way they didn't communicate with Favre. Look at how they didn't communicate really with Rodgers here. Is that what really is the whole thing here between these two, Rodgers and, say, Mark Murphy?
Well, you'd like to hear more from Rodgers, and I think, you know, in contrast to Brett Favre's situation, you know, people kind of noticed, you know, me as well. I think Rodgers has been smart by saying less, if nothing, whereas Brett Favre, you know, is usually an open book on this kind of stuff. But I think your point, you know, holds water too, where I think with the Packers, you know, for years, it's been about the organization, and there's not an owner there. It's you know, Mark Murphy is the caretaker, Brian Gutekunst is the GM, but he came up, you know, with Ted Thompson, saw how Ted Thompson operated, you know, and he couldn't pass up taking Aaron Rodgers, you know, in that 2005 draft. And, you know, you have to say that's been the best quarterback transition we've ever seen outside of maybe Montana to Young. I mean, right. It's rare that you see go from one Hall of Fame quarterback to the next. But I think we're also, you know, Dan, in a different time too, where people get in their feelings or people value communication more. And, you know, you're seeing, you know, I think general managers these days are a little younger and a little bit better maybe at communicating with players than they used to be, where maybe they were more a detached guy up in that front office that you never saw much of. But I would say, too, that probably Aaron Rodgers, you know, deserved that phone call, if that's what the crux of this is. You know, should he let go of the grudge after the way he played? You know, maybe. Do they seem committed to him beyond this year? Maybe. But, you know, we'll given he didn't opt out last week, and it sure seems like we're getting closer and closer to he's going to show up and play. But I do kind of admire that he's just kind of let this whole thing play out and let all of us, you and I and everybody else, talk about it. But we haven't really heard a whole lot from him directly. And I'm sure we won't. I'm sure it'll be a good, misdirection when it's time to talk about this at training camp, assuming he reports.
Would you agree, not just the play on the field by Brady, which we will, 10 years from now, sit back and just marvel at, because I think his legacy will end up being bigger, but player-wise, if LeBron James made it cool to be a mobile athlete, I'm wondering, Nate, how you look at this. Maybe one of the biggest impacts that Brady has on the league now when it comes to the quarterback position is say-so. I'm not saying that Tom Brady – how about this? I'm not saying that they're going to ask these quarterbacks for direction on where they should go into the draft, but I do think that they're going to keep these guys a little bit more updated on the direction of the franchise, because when you're spending $40 million on a player, and soon to be $50 million, depending on what you see with the contract of Patrick Mahomes and the escalators in there, I mean, you should have a seat at the table. I'm not saying in direction. I'm just saying maybe letting you know where we're going. You think that's one of the influences that Brady will be remembered by too? Because I'm seeing Russell do it now. I'm seeing Aaron do it. I'm sure we'll see more people, more quarterbacks, especially these younger group guys that are going to be going, hey, look at, where we're going. I'd like to know where we're going, because I'm not going to sit here like in years past, Nate, and just have my career die in Miami like Dan Marino or something. If you're not going to build a defense around me, I'm going to go somewhere else.
Well, I certainly think quarterbacks right now are looking at Brady. And certainly, as you mentioned, I mean, Russell Wilson, I think, said as much before stuff really blew up with him. But, wanting, Russell's concerned about his legacy, and he thinks that he ought to have some input there. Certainly, Aaron Rodgers, I don't think he's come out and said, you should take a Chase Claypool last year instead of Jordan Love or whatever. But, I mean, again, that kind of seems to be the undercurrent. And even – you think back before all the stuff blew up with Deshaun Watson. I mean, back in January, the whole controversy with him was hey, I want Eric Bieniemy interviewed. You guys have committed $160 million to me, and I feel like I should have input on the situation. And then he feel like he didn't, and the team kind of blindsided him with the direction it went. But like you said, it seems like that's a trend where things are going to a degree. That being said, I also think that the Brady situation is a bit of a perfect storm. Where, I mean, how much longer was Jason Light going to be in that job? Had he not pulled the Brady, wrapped out of his hat last year? And I also think Bruce Arians, everyone knows Bruce Arians, and I think he's adaptable. I don't think Tom Brady was his template quarterback with no risk it, no biscuit. Let's chuck it 50 yards downfield. But I think everything came together here where it's kind of a perfect situation for all sides. Bruce Arians is 68? Finally got his ring. I mean, worked out for him as well. It worked out for Jason Light as well, and now they're going to try to go do it again. I don't know. I mean, that's the interesting thing with Aaron Rodgers is if he were to go somewhere else. I mean, how often are you going to find that situation? Are the Denver Broncos going to let you do that? Is Mark Davis going to let you do that with the Raiders that come in? And I mean, certainly if you get traded to the Raiders, Aaron Rodgers, get back to the West Coast, but are John Gruden and Mike Mayock going to let you have input on personnel decisions that they're ultimately accountable for? I doubt it.
Hey, two last questions for you, Nate. Let me throw this at you here. And coaches, when we look at coaches and how we evaluate their legacies, there's no question Belichick's is solidified. But I would throw this off-ramp into his resume here. So he did get fired in Cleveland, and there was a quarterback decision that was made in Cleveland that I thought cost him his job. The whole back and forth between Testaverde and Bernie Kosar, in my opinion, cost him his gig in Cleveland because he really didn't know how to handle that transition from a local hero and Bernie from Youngstown. Both these guys are Kane's brothers of mine. I love them, but Bernie's the better NFL quarterback in my opinion. And it ended up at the end of the day, Bill Belichick failed in Cleveland. He goes up to New England, and let's just say it, man. I mean, Drew Bledsoe was good and all, but they weren't winning a lot of games right out of the gate. All of a sudden, you talk about pulling a rabbit out of your hat. And here comes this guy just parachuting in. By the way, they missed on him 5 times. I know the Patriots love to say that they drafted Brady, but they missed on him 5 times too. They get him in the 6th round. So if you want to call it luck, what have you, here's this unbelievable football player. Last year, the pandemic, okay, maybe we erase it a little bit here. How much pressure you think on Belichick for people not to have that George Seifert mentality where you look at him and go, Seifert was great in San Fran. He goes to Carolina, and he stunk out loud. Where you do this, 70-30 Brady, baby. in New England, 70-30. Because how do you see that whole dynamic up there?
Well, it's interesting that I think last season, the thing many of us were asking going into the 2020 season is was it Belichick? Was it Brady? Are we going to find out now? You know, like you said, was it Montana? Was it Walsh? I mean, there's always been that question where this is inextricable linkage. But last year there wasn't that, and it'll be great this year in Week 4 when Brady goes up to Foxborough with what we probably presume is a better team, and we'd be curious to see is Mac Jones a quarterback by then or Cam Newton, whatever. I think Bill Belichick's legacy is obviously cemented, and you think back too with all the luck or all the success he had when it was Matt Castle on the field, or Garoppolo or Jacoby Brissett or that kind of thing. So there was that. I think for a period of time he had a higher win percentage without Brady than with Brady.
No, they were 11-5, Nate, when Castle took over in that first game when he got hurt in Kansas City. So you could actually say they were 11-4 without Brady that year. And
they were 3-1 the year he was suspended. Yep. But that said, I mean, last year was different. But like you said, pandemic. I mean, 8 guys or whatever opt out. That's a lot to overcome. But I think with Bill, and I think Bill is very cognizant of his legacy, and does the NFL Films documentaries just so, and gives you that window to remember him by and that kind of thing. But I think the more if Tom Brady wins another championship this year and the Patriots don't, where does that leave Bill and his own GOAT thing? I mean, I think we've kind of been saying for years that this is the greatest coach of all time, but is it Vince Lombardi or is it Don Shula? I mean, does that discussion get reopened just based on how things have been going? The last couple of years with the Patriots, and can he turn it around with Cam Newton? I mean, or Mac Jones? I mean, we'll see. Be interesting to see how it goes.
And by the way, I'm wondering what's more important right now: him winning another Super Bowl or that Don Shula single season record? Because he has the postseason record, he has the Super Bowl. If you even want to add his coordinating rings in, Nate, when he was in New York and that AFC, I think he was a special assistant when Parcells had the Patriot team and they went in and lost to the Packers. I think he wasn't the D coordinator. I think he was a special assistant because he had just been fired from the Cleveland job. I mean, you look at that whole thing, and I'm wondering that Don Shula record is probably something that he covets right now as well.
Well, I think he's certainly cognizant. I mean, Bill Belichick is nothing if not an NFL historian. I mean, he helped the Jets get to an AFC Championship game under Parcells. I mean, you mentioned the Cleveland thing. I think before last year, it was funny too that people would be like, "Who was the last guy that won a playoff game in Cleveland?" It was Bill Belichick, and I believe that Vinny Testaverde was the starter in 1994. And that kind of looked like a feather in his cap. But I mean, I think he's another. Shula's a 347. I want to say Bill's in the 320. So it's going to be a couple more years. Yeah, but I think he's. If you're not going to retire when Tom Brady leads your team, clearly you've got other objectives in sight. Absolutely,
Nate. I appreciate you taking time for me. Thank you so much, my friend. Have a great week.
Good to see you, Dan. Thanks.
You got it. That is Nate Davis from USA Today, covers the National Football League. We'll take a brief time out. We'll unravel all that. You keep it here on the National Football Show.
I get scared sometimes.
Of a lot of things.
Joining in.
Decisions.
The dark.
The dark.
But I once heard someone say,
but as I always say,
it's okay to be afraid.
As long as you face the fear.
And keep moving forward.
Wherever you are in life, count on the name trusted in insurance for over 80 years. Independence Blue Cross.
The savoring taste of a good bag of beef jerky is so enjoyable at any time of the day, as long as you can find it. Here's what we suggest. Pure Bull Beef Jerky is our answer, and soon it will be yours. Locally produced in the Philadelphia region, this high-quality, healthy protein snack is easy to secure. Go to steersnacks.com, and you'll see hot garlic, tropical heat, Pure Bull dry rub, and our favorite, Huck and Fod. What's that? Huck and Fod. Go now to steersnacks.com.
Welcome to the Wildwoods, the perfect place where you can safely do everything or nothing at all. Catch a wave, take a nap, go for a drive, grab a bite. It's your vacation, and we're doing everything we can to make it a safe one. The Wildwoods. Your vacation, your way.
The International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local Union 98, is a proud sponsor of The Labor Show with J. Doc and Krause every Saturday night from 6 to 8 p.m. IBEW Local 98's highly trained and superbly skilled electricians are the best in the business, setting the highest safety standards in the electrical industry. So when you're planning your next industrial, commercial, or residential project, choose an IBEW Local 98 union contractor. Learn more at ibew98.org.
Field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you. Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3. Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
This is a key. It's a family tree. It's a pair of wings. It's a secret handshake. And a ticket to anywhere in the world. It's more than a uniform. It's the door to a world most people only dream of. There's Strong, and then there's Army Strong. Try it on at GoArmy.com.
Welcome back. National Football Show, Dan Sileo. Nate Davis is fantastic. Another Hall of Fame voter. Any sports writer that comes on the National Football Show, you have to have that distinction. Okay? A Hall of Fame voter. Or I work with you. Okay? Yeah, those are only folks that come on the program. By the way, I'm going to break a rule. And you're going to love this. So usually I don't have kickers on my show. I don't really think they're football players. Except for this guy, okay? He's a friend of mine. So tomorrow, we're going to have one of the very few Hall of Fame place kickers on our show. He's a friend. I've known him forever. Morton Anderson's going to join us tomorrow. So we'll get his thoughts on what it's like to go through the ceremonies on being selected as a Hall of Famer, getting the knock on the door. We'll talk to him. As a matter of fact, that's what we're going to start doing. We're going to get some Hall of Fame guys on and let us hear their experience and when they found out that they got that incredible knock on the door by David Baker, the president of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. You've now been selected as a member of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Less than 1% of the people that play in that league, okay, get an opportunity to put one of those gold jackets on. They're 1%ers in the league anyway. You got a better chance, get this, statistically, on being an astronaut than you do on playing in the National Football League. There's only been 26,000 men that have ever played in the NFL, and I'm very fortunate that I'm one of them. And it's an exclusive club. I believe there's only like 17,000 of us alive. So very exclusive. So we'll talk to Morton Anderson. That'll be tomorrow. By the way, Jason Cole, our resident NFL insider, he's also part of that process. So we'll get his thoughts. We'll talk a little Hall of Fame. That game's right around the corner. That'll be in hour number 2. Real quick here on what Nate Davis from USA Today was talking about when it came to Bill Belichick. And we'll see what this year leads for Bill. Mac Jones, whether or not he gets to start in week 1 or it's going to be Cam Newton. I will say this about Bill. Look, his legacy is clearly in cement. There's nothing that can chip away at it. Nothing. Another scandal, maybe. People are going to interpret Bill Belichick in their own eyes. Some people call him Bill Belichick, what have you. But if I were to make a comparison to Bill Belichick with someone else in NFL history, you know who they would be? It would be Al Davis. Al did things unconventional. Al was a maverick in the sport. All the things Bill is. Always ahead of the curve. Always looking at the rules in the game. Always looking at how you can manipulate formations against the rule so that you can have better personnel settings against your opponent. All of those things strategically done like he is a general that is putting a battle plan together each and every single Sunday. That's who Bill Belichick is. And I don't think anything can dent, as Nate said. I do think this, though. I think Bill can only enhance it. Bill gets the team to the AFC Championship game without Tom Brady. I don't know. I think that would be quite an accomplishment to leave that Patriots organization in the hands for the next guy to take over once Bill decides to leave. I don't know if Belichick will ever leave the game. Maybe he goes up into the front office. I can't just see him going and playing golf. Does that look like a guy who's just going to go and enjoy life and leave a sport that he's been involved in his entire life? I don't think so. I don't think guys like that. I think guys like that leave the game, I think they die within a year. I think that's just something that's ingrained in you. When Coach Bryant left Alabama, I think he passed away within a year. And the game was just, I know Paterno too. When Joe left the game, I think it was within a year he passed away. So, I mean, these guys, this is what some of these guys, it's all about. So, all right, let's move on. So, I don't know if you had a chance to watch UFC 264 over the weekend. Dustin Poirier ended up getting the victory. It was a stoppage because of medical reasons. Conor McGregor ended up breaking his ankle. Probably cracked it earlier in the first round, and he ended up stepping backwards. And he's lucky he didn't get a compound fracture. That thing was seconds away from coming through the skin. I've seen compound fractures on a football field, and let me tell you something. That's about as frightening of an injury that you can ever see a player get, is something like that. And I watched that, and, everyone, and I tweeted this out. This guy's lost now, I think it's 3 or 4 of the last fights, maybe 4 or 5 of the last fights that he's been in. Sure, he's a money guy. You know what it's like watching? It's like watching Ali at the end of his career, or Oscar De La Hoya at the end of their career. Or even if you want to go in the UFC, isn't it like watching Anderson Silva now? Anderson Silva, since that Chris Weidman injury that he had when he did almost basically the same thing to his foot, I mean, he's never been the same. And I would say this to you, Anderson Silva versus Conor McGregor. McGregor's the greatest promoter in the history of promoting UFC fights. No question about it. Anderson Silva, though, man, I mean, you can't put those two in the same conversation. Man, he was just spectacular. St. Pierre, also, guys like that. Those guys were just legendary. But Conor's something special about him. He's got a rock star mentality. And will an Nate Diaz fight get my money and get me to open up my wallet and watch a third fight, a trilogy fight? Yeah. Here, and I'll put this out there to you. Did I watch Mike Tyson in that exhibition fight against Roy Jones Jr.? Yes. And why did I do that? Here's why, and why Americans like this. And they like this kind of stuff, especially Conor. We enjoy watching things that give us pleasure. Conor McGregor gives great pleasure because he puts a great show on. He's an entertainer. He gets it. He's one of the greatest entertainers and sports entertainers of all time. And by the way, his promoting of the fight, his promoting of himself is what gets the clicks. It's not his record as of late, right? I mean, and let's be candid here. Was Dustin Poirier beating the piss out of him prior to that leg or that ankle breaking? Yeah. I mean, Conor's not great on the mat. He's not a grappler. He's not versatile enough to be considered a true UFC legendary guy like St. Pierre. He can strike and get on the mat and grapple. If you look at all the great, look at Khabib. Khabib is unbeaten. You want to know who the GOAT is? It's Khabib. But what's Khabib like? He ain't Conor McGregor. He's not. He's not Conor McGregor. And every guy in UFC is jealous because, get this, why do you think Dustin Poirier is going to take a fight like that? Every champion on the planet is going to want to get paid. Who wants to get hit in the face and make less money? Nobody. Watch this. If I was the champ and that weight class, and they came to me and they go, hey, do you want to fight Dustin Poirier or do you want to fight Conor McGregor? I'll go, give me McGregor. Yeah, but he just lost. I don't care. Because that guy holds the money belt. Well, yeah, but that's not the integrity. You'll go in there and get your face kicked in for half the money. No, thank you. Let me tell you something about playing professional sports. And this is something that ends up happening to every athlete. Okay, ready? When you get kicked in the chops a little bit and you start taking those hits, all of a sudden somebody's dropping $20,000 into your bank account every Tuesday. This was what I was getting when I played in the NFL. All of a sudden, them injuries, man, you're starting to do this. Well, I better go get some rehab here. Are you going to play this weekend? I'll let you know. Like years in the past, you do this. Yeah, I'm playing. You're like this now. I just got $45,000 put in my bank account, made an incentive. Dude, money does crazy things to you. It makes you here's what money does. It makes you think. See, when you're an athlete and you ain't making a lot of money, you don't think. You'll do anything. You'll run through fire. But when you start having the money that Conor McGregor has, this guy's worth $300 million. Do you want to run through fire again? Do I want to do the rehab that it's going to take? Here's another thing that Conor has to deal with. By the way, I think Teddy Atlas sucks out loud as a UFC analyst. He's not bad as a boxing analyst, but what the hell does he know about grappling? This guy made his name off of being a manager that Tyson hated. And he ended up losing the heavyweight championship belt with Michael Moore to George Foreman. I mean, I don't know. Because he sat in the corner and he talked crap to Michael Moore for a while. I don't know. Whatever. But he is right about one thing. Is that guy going to want to rehab to come back and get back in there and do it all over again? Man, 300. I told somebody over the weekend, if I had $300 million, hell, if I had $300,000 in the bank account, you know what I'd be doing? I'd be burning the boats. Don't come call me. I tell Xander and Cal, my guys that work on our show, don't bug me on weekends. I don't care. Okay? I mean, if I had the money, you would never find me again. I'm not that guy. I would delete every single social media platform and I would go away because I don't want anybody bugging me. Honestly, I'd just go away. And do you really want to get back in there to do that again? See, personally, I think Conor McGregor does want to do it. But spiritually, you want to go through that. The rehabbing of your ankle. Then to get in shape. Then to fight a guy like Nate Diaz, who you have to hit with a steel chair just to get him on the mat. You know what that guy's all about. That's probably a fight everybody still wants to see, the Nate Diaz fight. Do you really want to get into a position where you have to kill that guy? Because tell me this, you know Nate Diaz saw that and went like this, I pray to God this guy comes back. Because now I know I can beat him and I'll choke that son of a B out. You know I will. That had to inspire Nate Diaz to want to do that. I was thinking of Nate after that thing went for Dustin Poirier. I went, man, Nate's got to be going. Hey, as much as Poirier, I think he got like $2.5, $3 million for that fight. Nate Diaz is going to get about $4 million for that because people want to see that and there'll be bigger buys. Watch this. That fight's a bigger fight. And it will be for no belt. That's for damn sure, unless Dana sets him up with a tomato can to win a belt. And can you imagine if Nate had a belt going into that? Well, you could triple everything then. That's probably going to be Conor McGregor's swan song. Win or lose is the last Nate Diaz fight. Why would he want to get into the ring with Poirier? He's not going to want to ever get in the ring. And I know that Khabib is retired, but you can always get someone out of retirement. You start throwing bags of money at him. So we'll see. I look at it and I go like this. I don't know, man. Yeah. You really want to get in there and the amount of rehab. I mean, that guy's at least 8 months of rehab right now. So we're talking what? We're here in July. It's July 12th. Man, you're talking next May, where you could honestly start training and getting yourself into shape and feeling comfortable mentally that thing could hold up in a UFC fight? I mean, are you going to start kicking people after you broke your ankle like that? I don't know. I mean, that's got to be a disadvantage too as you're preparing for an upcoming fight against a guy like Nate Diaz. All right. I want to show you, last night I watched Giannis last night have an incredible basketball game last night. And I want to compare him to Lamar Jackson. I'll do that next. You keep it here on the National Football Show.
I get scared sometimes.
Of a lot of things.
Joining in.
Decisions.
The dark.
The dark.
But I once heard someone say,
But as I always say,
it's okay to be afraid.
as long as you face the fear.
And keep moving forward.
Wherever you are in life, count on the name trusted in insurance for over 80 years. Independence Blue Cross.
The savoring taste of a good bag of beef jerky is so enjoyable at any time of the day, as long as you can find it. Here's what we suggest. Pure Bull Beef Jerky is our answer, and soon it will be yours. Locally produced in the Philadelphia region, this high-quality, healthy protein snack is easy to secure. Go to steersnacks.com, and you'll see hot garlic, tropical heat, Pure Bull dry rub, and our favorite, Huck and Fod. What's that? Huck and Fod. Go now to steersnacks.com.
Welcome to the Wildwoods, the perfect place where you can safely do everything or nothing at all. Catch a wave, take a nap, go for a drive, grab a bite. It's your vacation, and we're doing everything we can to make it a safe one. The Wildwoods. Your vacation, your way.
The International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local Union 98, is a proud sponsor of The Labor Show with J. and Krause every Saturday night from 6 till 8 p.m. IBEW Local 98's highly trained and superbly skilled electricians are the best in the business, setting the highest safety standards in the electrical industry. So when you're planning your next industrial, commercial, or residential project, choose an IBEW Local 98 union contractor. Learn more at ibew98.org.
Field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on three. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
This is a key. It's a family tree. It's a pair of wings. It's a secret handshake. And a ticket to anywhere in the world. It's more than a uniform. It's the door to a world most people only dream of. There's Strong, and then there's Army Strong. Try it on at GoArmy.com.
Welcome back. National Football Show, Dan Sileo. The Milwaukee Bucks, Giannis is playing out of his ass in this series. He's got, I think, 3 straight games where he's gone over 40 points. You know the only other guy is in NBA history to do that for finals is Jordan. So you're seeing something historic on what's going on with Giannis. He's got a horrible three-pointer. He's not very good at the charity stripe. You know, it's almost like we're talking about a junior Shaq here, right? But what's the one thing he's worked at? 2 things, I think. When his back is against the basket, is there anybody better in the game than him? You know, when he's around the box, he's just flawless. And the thing that I love about him, you know, all those things that I just mentioned, horrible three-pointer, not really the greatest mid-range shot, too, I would say. But he's devastating around the basket like Shaq was. Well, The thing that I admire about him, he worked at his game. He's completely worked at it. Unlike that turd in Philadelphia, Ben Simmons, who's more worried about trolling for chicks on Instagram and buying homes. And by the way, so you have a horrible series. You're trolling chicks on the Instagram and you're moving to Southern California and you're not moving to Philly. You're not part of that community. You never have been for 5 years. That's why they hate you now. Under-delivering, and you don't appreciate the market you're in. You're never going to play in a market in your life. You see, and by the way, when fans are on your ass about something, that means they care. Let me give you a point here. And I've said this before to folks. Hey, man, my coach used to get on my ass all the time when I was at Miami. Jesus, man, what do we have to do to get you to be a better player? What do we have to do? And finally, man, I just lost it. Why are you always on my ass? Jimmy Johnson looked at me and says, son, worry when I'm not on your ass. Hit me like a ton of bricks. I was like, okay. He cares. Okay. Markets like Boston, Philly, Pittsburgh, Chicago, not New York. New York, they just bitch at anything. They'll bitch at the weather. They'll bitch on things closing at 2 a.m. If a bar, like that dumb stuff that like in your life has no meaning. New York fan base, when it comes to like their sports teams, how don't you kill James Dolan every single day you call in to a radio show and go, sell the team. You are the problem in New York with the Knicks. You, dude. Woody Johnson. The Jets suck because of you. But you know why you can't do that nowadays? Because most affiliations with radio shows or streaming shows are affiliated with those teams. So you can't really tell the truth. Unlike when we get Howard Eskin on, Howard just doesn't care because that's who Howard is. Legendary sports talk guy from Philadelphia. He'll just start ripping in everybody. Okay? And it's not personal. By the way, Woody Johnson, owner of the Jets, nothing personal, man. I don't know you from a can of paint. I'm talking about your production as a football owner. It sucks. James Dolan, hey, man, you may be a great granddad and a great dad and all. I don't know. I don't sit around your dinner table. I just know you suck as the owner of the Knicks. And that's all I'm going on. Nothing personal. You're an awful. When you're in markets like Boston, Philly, Pittsburgh, Chicago, maybe to some extent, Dallas, maybe, you're going to get a fan base, New Orleans for sure. You're going to get a fan base that's going to annihilate you when you don't show up and do something. Simmons is trolling for chicks on Instagram. Hey, honey, how are you? Well, you look like you. Here's Ben Simmons. Instead of worrying about winning and working on his game, hey, I play for the 76ers. Yeah, hi, I'm Ben. Wow, you got a great body. Hey, man. Yeah, no, where do you live? Oh, you're out in L.A.? Really? Wow, I get out there all the time. I really don't stay here in Philly much because it gets real cold and, not really a guy. Yeah, let's up. Dude, that's who he's 5 years old. You know what Lamar Jackson's doing in Baltimore? That guy's working on his best possible football player he could possibly be. That's what him and Giannis have in common. Okay, so they say I can't throw the ball. He leads the NFL in touchdown passes. They say I can't win. He's won 80% of his games since he's been a starter. Look at Giannis. He's 3 wins away from winning an NBA championship. Only him and Jabbar have won titles in the league. Huh? Jabbar, Giannis. That'd be quite a combo. And there's old Ben, the most overrated athlete in the history of Philadelphia sports. Worst contract ever. Can't shoot. And like my friend Howard said, you got to take the J out of Benjamin. He's Beneman. It's funny. It's true. This guy's afraid of dunking the ball. Crazy. And you got a guy that's working on his game in Baltimore. I think the Ravens are going to be right there for contention for an AFC championship. I really do. I think, you're talking about you're talking about a guy who wants to be great. And that's what makes Lamar the player that he is. All right. So it looks like Aaron Rodgers is kind of like teasing us again. This guy's like, your date. I don't know. Maybe. Where shall we eat? I don't know. I'll explain. Hour 2 coming up. You keep it here on the National Football Show.
I get scared sometimes.
Of a lot of things.
Joining in.
Decisions.
The dark.
The dark.
But I once heard someone say,
But as I always say,
it's okay to be afraid.
As long as you face the fear.
And keep moving forward.
Wherever you are in life, count on the name trusted in insurance for over 80 years. Independence Blue Cross.
The savoring taste of a good bag of beef jerky is so enjoyable at any time of the day, as long as you can find it. Here's what we suggest. Pure Bull Beef Jerky is our answer, and soon it will be yours. Locally produced in the Philadelphia region, this high-quality, healthy protein snack is easy to secure. Go to steersnacks.com, and you'll see hot garlic, tropical heat, Pure Bull dry rub, and our favorite, Huck and Fod. What's that? Huck and Fod. Go now to steersnacks.com.
Welcome to the Wildwoods, the perfect place where you can safely do everything or nothing at all. Catch a wave, take a nap, go for a drive, grab a bite. It's your vacation, and we're doing everything we can to make it a safe one. The Wildwoods. Your vacation, your way.
The International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local Union 98, is a proud sponsor of The Labor Show with J. and Krause every Saturday night from 6 till 8 p.m. IBEW Local 98's highly trained and superbly skilled electricians are the best in the business, setting the highest safety standards in the electrical industry. So when you're planning your next industrial, commercial, or residential project, choose an IBEW Local 98 union contractor. Learn more at ibew98.org.
Field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
This is a key. It's a family tree. It's a pair of wings. It's a secret handshake. And a ticket to anywhere in the world. It's more than a uniform. It's the door to a world most people only dream of. There's Strong, and then there's Army Strong. Try it on at GoArmy.com.
Hour 2, Dan Sileo, National Football Show. Jason Cole, our NFL insider at the bottom of the hour, Pro Football Hall of Fame voter. We live in such a snowflake society today. Snowflakes. Krause, my boy, as I said at the top of the first hour, he's like, oh, Sills, I disagree with you, man, about Stephen A. Smith's position where, he was just talking about a foreign player being the face of a sport. Yeah, dude. When everybody didn't take everything so serious and we were in a culture where you had reasoning and you thought through somebody's takes. Yeah. Those days are gone. Our society has destroyed that time in our country where we debated things. The greatest statesmen in the history of our country actually are people that are in the middle. You know why? You may not get everything you want when you're going after a particular bill. You may have to take some things out of it. I'm talking about people in Washington. But you're going to get 75% of what you want passed through because you compromised. There's always compromise, give and take in a debate. Oh, I see your side. That's called respecting people's opinions. But see, in our society today, you know that little buffer that we used to have? Don't cross my comfort zone line. People get right in your faces today. How many times have you tuned on the news and you see people just having dinner and people coming up right up to people and getting in their faces, whether they're wearing a mask or they have a MAGA hat on or whatever, and you feel that you're empowered to go over to somebody and let them know your opinion. And you're invading their space. So when you're talking to me about, hey, well, I got his opinion. Dude, those days are gone. You're talking like you're in fantasy land. That's not happening anymore. We're not debating whether or not it's the right thing. Hey, my boy Krause's point was, well, you know, having a foreign person in America be the face of the franchise might make it tougher to sell merchandise and also to connect with American sports fans. Is there anything wrong with that take? Today, yes. In reality, no. No. But you got to know the room. Shohei Ohtani, by the way, I don't care if I hear him speak or not. I'm watching that guy. And every time he's been on TV, they've had some of the highest ratings because he is a show in itself. I don't really have to hear that guy talk. I really don't. Getting an interview out of him, I don't care. He's a starting pitcher at the All-Star game in Colorado. He's going to be the leadoff hitter. He's leading baseball in home runs. The last man to do this was Babe Ruth. Here, just the proper context with Ruth. I know people always say this. And by the way, for the record, don't ever give me a baseball stat prior to 1947 because it's beer drinking, old fart white dude leagues records that I don't care about. Okay, there was not diversity in your sport, so I don't care about white guy records prior to 1947. When you started getting some diversity, and maybe not even 47 because there was only one African-American, and that was Jackie. Maybe all the way until 1960, you could possibly go. You know the Red Sox didn't have a black ball player on their team until 1959. Okay, so, you know, you talk about diversity from 47, probably have to go 1960 before you even start really looking at records where you compare them to black players and white players. The point about Ruth, though, Ruth barnstormed against the African-American and Negro leagues. He was always competing. And the year that he took Lou Gehrig with him, Gehrig came back the next year and hit 49 home runs and was the MVP of the league. Gehrig says many times back in the day, he says one of the greatest experiences he ever had was barnstorming with Ruth and playing against the Negro leagues, superstars like Satchel Paige and them guys. So Ruth was an anomaly in himself. This guy almost won 100 ball games as a starting pitcher. Ruth held for generations the lowest ERA in a World Series for like ever, I think either until Sandy Koufax or Madison Bumgarner broke it. I mean, he was on his way to being a Hall of Fame pitcher. And then they turned around because they didn't have the economic resources in Boston. He started hitting. I think he hit 29 homers. Then he hit 54. Then they had to sell him because the owner of the Red Sox couldn't afford the team anymore. And so he sold Ruth to New York. And that's where his hitting prowess took off, and he hit 7. You imagine this, you got 100 wins, counting the playoffs as starting pitcher, and you've hit over 700 home runs. Unbelievable. And to this day, we still talk about Ruth. 85 years after his last game he played with the Boston Braves. 80 years plus. And there's only 14 actual minutes. Do you know this? There's only 14 actual minutes of Babe Ruth footage, and we still revere this guy. Like no athlete in American history. 85 years since his last game and only 14 minutes of actual game footage of Ruth. It's incredible. And now we have this modern Babe Ruth. Let me tell you why Shohei Ohtani is the greatest thing ever happened to baseball. You know, we mentioned about the snowflakes that we have in our society today. I'm going to take a direct opposite view of how Stephen A. Smith and some people think Ohtani not having the ability to speak English and he needs a translator. Let me tell you why I think this is important. And Ohtani is in the game of baseball at the right time. Let me tell you a story here real quick as we move on. We'll get into talking about Aaron Rodgers here in a minute. You know, everybody always wants to give the Dodgers so much love for breaking the color line with Jackie and then bringing the first African-American into the game. Branch Rickey really was the guy. I think I broached this a little bit last time. The Dodgers and Mexican-Americans hated one another because of Chavez Ravine. When the Dodgers were given that spot, Walter O'Malley was given that spot to move into Southern California from Brooklyn. They had to displace Mexican-Americans and Mexicans in Southern California. They were boycotting Dodger games. When they moved into Chavez Ravine in 59-60, you couldn't find a Mexican-American for 30 years. They weren't going to go in there, 20 years. They were not going to go into that stadium. The Dodgers in the city of Los Angeles urinated all over the Mexican-Americans. One man saved it, Fernando Valenzuela. Valenzuela went in there and every Mexican-American, the night pitch. By the way, he still works on the broadcast team, Spanish version for the Dodgers. I would say this to you, that Fernando Valenzuela is the second most important Dodger that's ever lived next to Jackie Robinson when it comes to racial relations with that team. And he's probably the most important Dodger in Southern California of all time. Jackie in Brooklyn, breaking the color line, obviously, and Valenzuela in Southern California. It would be incredible nights when he pitched. Rookie of the Year, Cy Young, MVP, World Series. Valenzuela was amazing. I loved watching him. Now you have an opportunity here, get this, in our country right now because of how some people have viewed the Wuhan virus, Asian Americans, hate crimes are up. How we view Asians and we discriminate is up everywhere, even in college admissions. You have Shohei Ohtani, who's born in Japan, in Southern California. Here is baseball's chance to promote a guy that can show you that anybody in the world, like in soccer, can play in this game and be the face of the league. You have your own Messi here. You have your own Cristiano Ronaldo right in front of you if you're Major League Baseball. Do you even know what Mike Trout looks like? Bryce Harper now, it's being debated in Philly. I don't know. Maybe that's a crappy deal. You got a guy here in Shohei Ohtani where you're like this. This is not just the face of baseball, it's the face of the world. Baseball, which is stuck in the mud with their stupid rules. Their Hall of Fame voting is the greatest example of them not being in the now. They care about those records like they're the Holy Grail. NFL doesn't care about its record book. They care about entertaining. And this guy, Shohei Ohtani, is entertaining. There's not a sports fan I know that hasn't done this. This guy's incredible. You know how hard that is to say for a baseball player? Look, when you look at Fernando Tatis Jr., who's playing for the Padres, and I watch that kid every night, I think he's special. When I watch Shohei Ohtani play, I think he's generational special, like Babe Ruth stuff I read about in history books. Was this what Ruth was like? Hitting these 500-foot home runs, throwing a 3-hit shutout? Was that what Ruth was like when he played in Boston and they were talking about him pitching and hitting? You're getting a view at what history used to look like through the lenses of people almost 100 years ago when they watched the legendary Babe Ruth play. I watched Ohtani hit that 465-foot home run on Friday, and I'm like, man, there is just something unbelievable about this dude. So I look at it different than Stephen A. I think you got a chance to market the world, not just America. Don't think so small. You see, the NFL can't think any other way but promoting in America, because you know why? Where else do you play American-style football? Canada, where else? Where else? It's a North American sport. You play baseball all over the world. Japan, China, Russia, South America, Central America, Australia. Find a place. You play baseball. You play baseball and soccer in the world. And you've got the best baseball player in the world. You've got Messi on your team, and you don't even know it. Baseball named him the starter for the American League in the All-Star game. He's going to be in the home run derby. This guy's giving you every opportunity to market him. He's like Michael Jordan right now. I mean, Michael Jordan, how many interviews did Michael Jordan do with Ahmad Rashad when he was playing back in the day? Remember, he used to just get up from those press conferences and walk away. Jordan didn't say much. I don't need Ohtani to say anything. I just need him to keep doing what he's doing. As a matter of fact, there's a thing of mystery about it if he doesn't even speak. Just go keep doing what you're doing, dude. Watch this. The home run derby is the stupidest thing on the planet to me. But I'm going to watch it because he's in it. He's going to start as a starter for the American League, and then he's going to hit leadoff. I'm going to watch it because he's in it. I'm not watching it because Manny Machado's in it. I'm watching it because Shohei Ohtani's in it. Dude, you got a guy right now that baseball hasn't had in its sport for 100 years. This guy's got a bigger attraction than, how about this? Don't you think this must have been like when it was back in 1947 when Robinson broke the color line? You wanted to see what Jackie would do and how great a player he was, which he was. And it was like a novelty. Kind of, let's see if this African-American can play. Now you're watching a foreign Japanese player not, get this, not just be good, but dominate. Not just be one of the top 5. He is the guy. Krause was saying, man, if you pay these other guys $35 million, this guy's a $55 million a year dude. The next contract that you put down for Shohei Ohtani is going to be north of $500 million. He'll be the highest paid athlete in American sports history. Huh? Who would have thunk that? Crazy. I don't look at it as a negative. If baseball does it right, which they can't because they don't know how to do anything right, let's keep Pete Rose out of the Hall of Fame. Okay. So wait, you don't have Pete Rose, Roger Clemens, and Barry Bonds in the Hall of Fame. Do you think we're stupid people here? You think we don't know they took steroids? We have our own personal public opinion asterisk that we put on these guys. They've already been convicted in a court of public opinion. I don't need to have these tools tell me with your vote just to make you relevant that Bonds and these guys may have taken PEDs. Dude, don't think for me. Just put these guys in the Hall of Fame. You don't have a real legitimate Hall of Fame unless those dudes are in it. You really don't. You don't have a Hall of Fame that matters. Well, let's keep Barry Bonds out. Okay. Sosa, McGuire, all the guys who actually, and get this, one quick note here on this. So how is Tony La Russa in the Hall of Fame? The manager of the White Sox, who was the manager of the Bash Brothers in Oakland. And real quick, let's think of the steroiders that La Russa had on his team. Terry Steinbach, Jason Giambi, Mark McGuire, Jose Canseco, Miguel Tejada. He had 5 juicers that I can name off the top of my head. And you're trying to tell me that him and Sandy Alderson, who was the GM of the team, didn't know when those guys were 190 one year, they came back and they were 245, and McGuire and Canseco looked like they could have played for the Oakland Raiders instead of the A's? You didn't know something was freaky? Oh, I see. Managers are the managers in the Hall of Fame, but the players aren't. I didn't know anything. Okay. Yeah. All right. We'll hit on Aaron Rodgers, and also my boy Jason Cole got a brand new book out on John Elway, too. We will talk to our NFL insider. We'll do that next. You keep it here on the National Football Show.
I get scared sometimes.
Of a lot of things.
Joining in.
Decisions.
The dark.
The dark.
But I once heard someone say,
But as I always say,
it's okay to be afraid.
as long as you face the fear.
And keep moving forward.
Wherever you are in life, count on the name trusted in insurance for over 80 years. Independence Blue Cross.
The savoring taste of a good bag of beef jerky is so enjoyable at any time of the day, as long as you can find it. Here's what we suggest. Pure Bull Beef Jerky is our answer, and soon it will be yours. Locally produced in the Philadelphia region, this high-quality, healthy protein snack is easy to secure. Go to steersnacks.com, and you'll see hot garlic, tropical heat, Pure Bull dry rub, and our favorite, Huck and Fod. What's that? Huck and Fod. Go now to steersnacks.com.
Welcome to the Wildwoods, the perfect place where you can safely do everything or nothing at all. Catch a wave, take a nap, go for a drive, grab a bite. It's your vacation, and we're doing everything we can to make it a safe one. The Wildwoods. Your vacation, your way.
The International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local Union 98, is a proud sponsor of The Labor Show with J. and Krause every Saturday night from 6 till 8 p.m. IBEW Local 98's highly trained and superbly skilled electricians are the best in the business, setting the highest safety standards in the electrical industry. So when you're planning your next industrial, commercial, or residential project, choose an IBEW Local 98 union contractor. Learn more at ibew98.org.
Field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
This is a key. It's a family tree. It's a pair of wings. It's a secret handshake. And a ticket to anywhere in the world. It's more than a uniform. It's the door to a world most people only dream of. There's Strong, and then there's Army Strong. Try it on at GoArmy.com.
Welcome back. Dan Sileo, National Football Show. We're going to talk to our NFL insider, Jason Cole, here in a minute. By the way, as I mentioned in the last block, he's got a book out. And by the way, I didn't even realize that my friend Peter King on the front cover of the book here, Jason Cole delivers the goods the way Elway delivered the ball. And Jason and I have been friends a long time. Nice little comment inside there. You can go to Amazon. You can get the book. And I believe they went to Stanford together, if I'm not mistaken. You know them smart dudes, right? Right? These guys, they all hang together, and he always rips me a little bit when it comes to my education at the University of Miami. So we're going to talk to Jace here in a second too. So we'll get his opinion on, John Elway, by the way, was drafted by the New York Yankees. And there was a thought process that he may, if the Baltimore Colts at the time drafted him, that he may have been playing with Don Mattingly all them years. It would have been him and Mattingly playing baseball, and then eventually Derek Jeter would have been playing baseball in New York, and John was great. John was like one of the first guys to do this. I think he made $300,000 his senior year because the Yankees signed him to a contract for $300,000 on a signing bonus, and then they paid him some crazy money. And he was a tremendous prospect. George Steinbrenner loved him and really made a pitch. And there was a conversation that many people thought that Jack Elway, the father, was saying that, hey, man, I don't know what John's going to do. He may go ahead and play with the Yankees. Kirk Gibson did that when he left Michigan State. What made that so incredible was that Kirk Gibson was a first-team All-American split end at Michigan State. And Steve Garvey also played. He was an all-Big Ten player at Michigan State. And those guys both decided that baseball, because it was the guaranteed money, that those guys could go into baseball and, carve out a career, which both of those guys carved out really, really great careers, both MVPs, and both MVPs with the Dodgers for that matter, too. They would end up playing for the Dodgers and end up being MVPs. I know that Gibson played for the Tigers for a little bit. But, so they carved out really fine careers for themselves. Not quite Hall of Famers, but world championships. And Garvey's right at the cusp, potentially, of being a baseball Hall of Fame type. I think he's an all-star MVP. I know that he won divisional MVPs. I think he won a World Series MVP, won a regular season MVP, Gold Gloves, and he's got the most consecutive games played as a National League ball player. The overall record's by Rippon, but I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I think Garvey holds the record for National League play for most consecutive games played, and they all played football at Michigan State. So we'll catch up with our friend here in a second. As I tell everyone now, I tell everybody that these teams are rocking and rolling right now and putting all of their depth charts together. They're getting the camps together. The Cowboys are showing up to training camp July 20th. I mean, we're 8 days from the Cowboys showing up to training camp. I mean, how incredible is that? Because they're going to be playing in the Hall of Fame game. They're going to have two classes that are going to be, going into the Hall of Fame at the same time. So I'm really looking forward to seeing these guys' speech. And, it's going to be the first time, that football NFL fans, outside of what we saw in the Super Bowl and some of the games that we saw maybe this past year in the playoffs where there were fans in the stands, you're going to be getting full houses pretty much at many of these facilities around the NFL. And it's going to start in Canton. And it's going to be, I think, one of the most anticipated years that we've seen in NFL history, because really coming out of this thing, everyone wants to see a full season with really out having the pandemic really be a determining factor on what some of these teams may have to go through. Now, if we're learning anything about the Olympic Games have put the NFL on blast a little bit. Same thing what we saw here with Chris Paul a bit. Chris Paul had to miss some of the playoff games because of protocols with COVID. So if you're the NFL, you're watching some of that stuff that's going on now, and you want to make sure that you have a great start to your upcoming NFL season. That first week in September there, you want to make sure that Cowboys and Buccaneers get off to a great start. You don't want to have this. Dak missed the game. You don't want to have Brady or Gronk or any of those stars or even the coaches mean, you don't want to have any of those guys not there in the building for that Thursday night ball game. You want to make sure you have a clean start to your Thursday, your Sunday night, and your Monday night. And the NFL has put all these guardrails in to make sure that they do get off to this great start. I'm looking forward to it. I really can't wait to see this. Real quick here before we effort our friend Jason Cole here. Looks like Apple now is going to be getting into the potential business here of the direct ticket. And so we'll give you more info on that. And with that being said, we bring our friend in, our Pro Football Hall of Fame insider, our friend Jason Cole. He jumps aboard with us now. And again, folks, I got the book here. Here it is in front of me here, Elway. And I love the fact Peter King is one of my favorite people on the planet because he took over for one of my dear friends. And by the way, when I say friends, you got to remember, you never knew what you were going to get with Paul Zimmerman. One day, he was like a really kind dude. The next day, he could be a tool bag, but you knew this. Paul Zimmerman was going to tell you and read you the riot act. And Peter kind of took that baton from who Paul Zimmerman was. And Paul was like really one of the best NFL insiders here. And so that's really cool that he said this. Before we get going, Jace, I want to ask you something here because we're seeing what Shohei Ohtani's doing now. And I mentioned it to Nate Davis in the last hour. Best athlete I've ever seen on a football field is Bo Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
I've never seen anything like it. It's a shame he's not in any Hall of Fame. I mean, he was an all-star baseball player, and his injuries in that Cincinnati playoff game precluded him from going on and having a great NFL career. God knows what he would have done. But, I mean, did John ever think of doing the same thing that Bo did, playing for the Yankees and playing football for the Broncos? Did that ever cross his mind? I mean, he was recruited hard by Steinbrenner.
No, not really. Not playing both. I think that he would have for a leverage play if the Colts hadn't buckled to his demands. He probably would have played for the Yankees for a year. He would not. He was never going to play for the Colts. That was set in stone. He was never ever going to play for them.
So that was just a leverage. That was just a leverage play, then. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, look, in his heart of hearts, he wanted to be a quarterback. He loved football. That's what he thought he was going to do. The only way he probably ever would have ended up in baseball is if he had gone and immediately had success. Like you go there and all of a sudden you're at AA and you're hitting 400. They skip you to AAA and then all of a sudden you're in the majors within 1 year. And even that probably would have been hard. I mean, baseball's just – he learned what a grind baseball was during his one – it wasn't even a season of playing a full – it wasn't even a full season. It was like – 6 weeks in Oneonta, New York. He learned how tough it was to get through the travel and everything else that goes with playing baseball. And he hit under 200 for the first couple of weeks. He ended up hitting over 300 by the time it was done. But he learned baseball's a struggle. It's a marathon, and he was much more interested in being a quarterback.
Your Hall of Fame insight is so awesome, Jason. I love every year you and I off the scene, we kind of talk about the Hall of Fame, and I so admire that you sit down and you really take the game, these guys and their careers, and you wait for the final chapter instead of having people kind of write the final chapter before the career is over, which is me basically sometimes. You're like, well, give me a chance to see what the book looks like when the book is 5 years on the shelf. So I've always admired that. But when I say this to you, Bo Jackson's the greatest athlete I've ever seen in pro football history. Would we agree with that?
Oh, God, yeah. Like, I don't know I mean, look, Deion was obviously a great player. Deion arguably achieved more than Bo Jackson did in his two sports. If you were talking about I mean, Deion was a Hall of Famer in one of those sports, and was an All-Star in the other, played in the World Series. So technically, by pure achievement, Deion was a better athlete. Accomplished more. But if you really looked at it, did you ever there's that funny story about when Bo was at Auburn, and I think Deion was a freshman and tried to tackle him. And Bo puts his hand on the helmet, and Deion talks about, Yeah, it was one of those praise Jesus. He's trying to heal me right now because he's about to kill me. Like that kind of thing. Like even Dion kind of knows. Like if you're just drawing up a physical specimen of what a running back outfielder, like it's Bo, right? Like it's Bo. Like the power, the strength, the ability to hit a ball, 400 feet, 450 feet, and then run over a linebacker. Like everybody shows the Brian Bosworth, highlight as the proof of strength for Bo Jackson. My favorite is still Mike Harden, because Mike Harden was a real player. Boz was just a figment of his own imagination, right? Mike Harden was a player, and he ran over Mike Harden. Okay, Mike Harden, a safety who played for the Denver Broncos for a number of years, and was really, really good. He just destroyed Mike Harden in the open field. He destroyed Bosworth. He destroyed a lot of people, right? But the Mike Harden one is the one that just makes me go, oh, God. And then, he's got sprinter speed with that 225-pound body. It's just ridiculous to think about what Bo Jackson did. And I always come back to this. Throw on the YouTube of him running up the wall. In baseball, right? Makes the catch, runs up the wall, runs back down. Like you just look at it, you go, humans aren't supposed to do that. And then he breaks the bat over his thigh, right? Like the strength to break a baseball bat over your thigh. Don't even try it at home, because you're going to end up with a bruise that is going to send you to the hospital if you're a normal human being.
You know what, Jason? When you say that, when you say this stuff, I'll tell you, when you're sitting there and you're looking at somebody like Terrell Davis, and you're looking at him and debating whether or not he's a Hall of Famer, and you're looking down and you see the 2,000 rushing yards. Bo averaged, I think, 1 year 6 yards a carry because he played half the season in baseball. Mm-hmm. But when you're looking at a guy like Terrell Davis, you're not talking like this about Terrell Davis. You're looking at a lesser player athletically, not resume-wise.
But that's everybody. That's every human.
I get it.
Alive.
It must be tough to look at that.
Fair. Oh yeah. Well, it's like, yeah. Look, I love Zach Thomas, and I'll stand on the table for Zach Thomas to get into the Hall of Fame. But I'm not going to pretend that he's the same athlete as Ray Lewis. I'll say that he achieved a lot of the same things that Ray achieved numerically, like number of Pro Bowls and a certain number of plays and stuff. But he's not Ray Lewis at that position. He's not LT. He's not, he's much more in line with what does your typical NFL football player look like, right? And he happened to take care of himself and studied really hard and did a great job. And I think he's deserving of being in the NFL. But most guys are in that realm, right? There's only a handful of human beings who you can't draw X's and O's for them. Like they defy the X's and O's of the game. Lawrence Taylor defied the X's and O's of the game. Reggie White defied the X's and O's of the game. Deion Sanders, Bo Jackson, John Elway. You couldn't draw up a defense that covered the whole field because they just say, go, like he tells receivers, go deeper. Go as far as you can because I'll throw it until you hear somebody yelling popcorn and peanuts, right? Like you just – I can do anything I want. And in the book, if you read Ronnie Lott's comments in the book about John Elway when they faced in college, and Ronnie Lott's covering, Kenny Marjoram running deep, and he goes, yeah, there's no way that anybody's going to throw that ball to Kenny Marjoram because I'll just bat it away. I'll run after it and bat it away. And then all of a sudden Elway throws it, and Lott's like, whoa, wait a second. He discovered that one human being who can do things that nobody else can do. There was a great conversation I saw on Twitter where Dan Orlovsky is talking, I think, to Pat McAfee this over the weekend, right? Or late last week it was. And he was talking about how Matt Stafford can throw a 40-yard out, to the wide side of the field, and he's willing to try that and throw it into triple coverage because he has that kind of arm strength. And Stafford always looks at Orlovsky and says, basically, well, you can't do that. Elway did the same thing with Gary Kubiak, right? The thing about it is you may have the ability to do that, but is that the wise thing to do? Right. And that's where I get on Matt Stafford. I sit there and go, yeah, you can make that throw. You have the arm strength to do it. Is that a winning play? And that's the question I ask about a guy like that.
I would say this to you then too, matching the talent up with the position and the smarts for the position is why I say Brady is, him, Elway, those guys have been able to screw both of those parts of their brains in, Jace, the ability and a cerebral understanding of the position where they know like this, and they do it absorbing the intel on the fly going, I can't throw that out. There's a 45% chance that they're successful. We're up by 10. Why would I throw that? Whereas you've got guys like Baker Mayfield that may throw that ball, but guys like Elway, guys like Peyton Manning, guys like Tom Brady, they know the percentages of where they are. And I think that's what separates. It's not always the most gifted guy on the planet that plays that position. My opinion, man, that's the only position, Jason, the quarterback position, when we're talking about the evaluation tests at the combines, that I think that the Wonderlic test matters. You've got to be a smart guy at that position. You can't be a dumbass at that position and not know where to go with the ball.
Well, look, a lot of things have to be planned out and thought out. And again, like you're saying, do I have the ability to make this throw in this situation, right? And Manning knew the difference, and Brady, Elway, he could take more chances, right? Because he simply had more physical gift and more physical talent than anybody else, right? So, but somewhere in there, they all understood these were winning plays.
Oh, yes.
These are the plays that I have to make to be able to do it, right? This is what I have to accomplish in this situation. And Marino was like that. Brady's certainly at the far end of that, at that spectrum. There's a handful of guys who are like this, right? Troy Aikman certainly understood, what kind of play does he have to make in a given situation? What's the smart play? And when people look at Troy Aikman and say, oh, well, his numbers don't show that he was all that good. It's like, you didn't watch him play, did you? So, I get exactly what you're saying. I get exactly what you're talking about. It is it's the nature of playing the most complicated position in sports. And it's not necessarily saying I only have a 45% chance of making this play, but recognizing in like this, no. Or this, no, yes. This, no. This has got to happen here, and making it happen instantaneously as you see it. And there are just very few humans who can process all of that information and know right away yes or no and be right most of the time.
Paul Feinbaum has come out publicly saying that he doesn't believe that Urban Meyer is going to be successful in the NFL. He says that he's still got a college mentality. Where do you sit on this?
Was that what Feinbaum was saying, or he just thought it wouldn't last? I remember reading Feinbaum's comment. And I was sort of like, okay, predicting that Urban Meyer's not going to last very long somewhere that's not going out on a limb. I didn't get the sense that he knew whether he was going to be successful or not. But if you measure success in terms of, okay, you last somewhere 6, 7, 8 years, 10 years, 15 years, no, there's no chance Urban Meyer lasts in the NFL that long. He doesn't.
Do you think he has success? Do you think he has success in the league?
Look, it's going to depend on the quarterback. I mean, come on. There's so much that goes into this. Is the quarterback going to be any good? If the quarterback's good, he's got a chance, right? I mean, Barry Switzer won a Super Bowl, for God's sakes. Okay. I mean, let's get serious, right? Like, yeah, there's a relatively short list of coaches who won Super Bowls who you look and you go, that wasn't because of him. It was because the players were so good, right? I mean, George Seifert won too. George Seifert's a very nice man. He ain't going to the Hall of Fame. Okay, I can tell you that right now. Okay, very nice man. Okay, not going to the Hall of Fame. I'm sorry, that's just not going to happen. I watched the man coach. I know who won those Super Bowls, right? So, look, with Feinbaum's prediction on Urban. Look, is Urban going to make the Jacksonville Jaguars better? Absolutely. Is it going to, I remember watching Jimmy Johnson with the Dolphins in his last hurrah as a coach. He made the organization better. He brought it back to life. Would you call him successful in Miami? Most people would say no.
Not Jimmy's level.
Not Jimmy's level, because Jimmy got tired, because Jimmy burned so hot that there's no way to make that last. And that's why Jimmy, I don't think there's any stop ever in his entire career where he lasted more than 4 or 5 years, right? I mean, you just look at his resume. Yep. It's like one place to the next to the next. I mean, Larry Brown in basketball, the same kind of thing. Next place, next place, next place. You got to get to the new challenge. You got to make it fresh. I mean, players are like that. Coaches are like that, especially now. But so is Urban Meyer going to make them better? Absolutely. He can't make them worse. Is he going to make them a serious contender? That's going to depend on Trevor Lawrence. And so I don't think I don't think Feinbaum saying he's not going to last very long is a very out there prediction. I just kind of look at it and go, okay, Paul, you're just telling me you're just saying the obvious. Is he going to win a Super Bowl? Look, he's got the #1 overall pick and a guy who a lot of people think was one of the greatest talents of the last 20 years to play quarterback. That's a pretty good starting point.
I'm going to name you 3 quarterbacks here: Tua Tagovailoa, Joe Burrow, or Justin Herbert. At the end of this coming season, which quarterback are we going to be saying, wow, this guy here's projection is like a Marino of these 3 guys, and which guy is going to be struggling to just keep his gig?
Well, I mean, I think most likely, Herbert's going to be given the most chances to throw the ball around. So he's going to be winging it the most, right? So that gives him a chance to pile up stats, sort of like what he did last year. They were behind a lot. Burrow, I think, unfortunately, he's buried in Cincinnati. So can you overcome your organization? Probably not. He's going to probably struggle some this year because he's coming back from a knee injury, right? I mean, you remember when Carson Palmer came back from the knee injury initially. It took him a while to feel comfortable in the pocket. I think Tua is going to have a wonderful season. And the Dolphins, despite their, they got a pretty rough early schedule, they're the team that's best suited to have success as a team. It may not be reflected in Tua's numbers, but the fact that they took Waddle in the first round and they brought in Fuller, they've upgraded their weapons. I like a lot of things that they did. I mean, the only thing I would have done that would have been different is I would have taken, the running back that Pittsburgh took, Harris, right? I would have taken Harris. I would have taken Najee Harris and said, hey, let's have Waddle and Harris, and we're just going to try and outscore everybody. And they went with a pass rusher. I understand that, but I would have pushed all my chips in to help Tua out and make the game as easy as possible for both Tua and for the defense. But I think they've surrounded Tua with weapons. We talk about Fuller, Waddle. They got the Parker kid coming back. Preston Williams, not a bad player. Gesicki at wide receiver. Running back is still kind of to be determined there. But I think that team's going to be really good. Whether Tua's numbers reflect it, that's it. It's kind of just an unfair situation for him.
2 questions here, okay? Do you believe the quarterback is in New Orleans for Sean Payton between Taysom Hill and Jameis Winston? Is his future at one of those with one of those 2 guys?
Probably not. I mean, look, if you just take raw talent, it's not even close. Jameis Winston's a way more talented guy. But Jameis Winston forever has been sloppy. Okay. Yep. The turnovers are sloppy. And I remember having this conversation with Mike Mayock, and this is before Mayock obviously took over as the Raiders GM. And I know that people now rip him for his selections there. It's not all his fault. But staying on point, Mayock, we were sitting on the field at the University of Florida, and we were kind of talking this one through. And I was just like, look, you got in trouble when you were a freshman in college. And I'm not even going to say whether it was sexual assault or not, because we're way past that point, right, of trying that case. But you got into very serious trouble when you were a freshman in college, right? And if you thought you had a pro career ahead of you, wouldn't you just buttoned it all up and said, I'm not doing anything else. Like, you're not going to catch me out, right? I'm not going to get in any kind of trouble like this. No way. He does the crab legs things. He does the screaming in the cafeteria. Then he does the shooting up the window. It's sloppy.
Even in Tampa with the cab driver,
the taxis, and he's just sloppy, right? And it's like, look, you got to take care of business first. And I know there's been other guys who were sloppy too. Brett Favre was sloppy with a lot of the things that he did in his life too. Turnovers included. At the end of the day, Brett Favre won 1 Super Bowl. Okay, there's a lot of people who make the case that Brett Favre underachieved.
Oh yeah,
for his career, right? But he only won 1. Jameis Winston has way underachieved for the amount of talent that the guy has. And I'm not saying it's Brett Favre. He doesn't have that kind of arm, but he has the talent. He's better than Taysom Hill if you're just doing a quarterback challenge, right? But I don't think he's going to do it. I don't think Taysom Hill's good enough to be a full-time quarterback. So, yeah, I think that at the end of this year, Sean Payton's back in there looking for another quarterback. I hope I'm wrong. I hope that Jameis Winston turns it around. I hope that he finally realizes what his talent is. But I wouldn't bet on it.
Final question for you. Next year in 2022, who will be a bigger commodity when it comes to coaching searches, and who will be a hotter coaching candidate? Eric Bieniemy or Doug Peterson?
I got you, Eric Bieniemy. You froze up. You froze up for like 3 seconds.
Who will be a bigger coaching, a hotter coaching candidate? Will it be Doug Peterson or will it be Eric Bieniemy in 2022?
Oh, it'll be Bieniemy because they're gonna be good again, right? Doug Peterson's gonna be sitting there doing nothing. Pretty much. So Bieniemy's got Mahomes. As long as you got Mahomes on your side, everybody's going to want you. Now, I think they're both slightly flawed candidates. I love Doug Peterson and I like Eric Bieniemy a lot. I mean, I just know personally Doug Peterson, but if you're betting on those two, the one who coaches Pat Mahomes is the one who's going to look all the better.
the guy who's in the game. Don't forget, folks, Elway here. Again, this is really a great book, A Relentless Life by my friend Jason Cole. Please go out and get it. And Jason, thank you so much, brother. I appreciate you doing this as always.
Anytime, dude. I'll talk to you later.
You got it. Jason Cole. We'll take a brief time out. You keep it here on the National Football Show.
I get scared sometimes.
Of a lot of things.
Joining in.
Decisions.
The dark.
The dark.
But I once heard someone say,
but as I always say,
it's okay to be afraid.
As long as you face the fear.
And keep moving forward.
Wherever you are in life, count on the name trusted in insurance for over 80 years. Independence Blue Cross.
The savoring taste of a good bag of beef jerky is so enjoyable at any time of the day, as long as you can find it. Here's what we suggest. Pure Bull Beef Jerky is our answer, and soon it will be yours. Locally produced in the Philadelphia region, this high-quality, healthy protein snack is easy to secure. Go to steersnacks.com, and you'll see hot garlic, tropical heat, Pure Bull dry rub, and our favorite, Huck and Fod. What's that? Huck and Fod. Go now to steersnacks.com.
Welcome to the Wildwoods, the perfect place where you can safely do everything or nothing at all. Catch a wave, take a nap, go for a drive, grab a bite. It's your vacation, and we're doing everything we can to make it a safe one. The Wildwoods. Your vacation, your way.
The International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local Union 98, is a proud sponsor of The Labor Show with J. and Krause every Saturday night from 6 till 8 p.m. IBEW Local 98's highly trained and superbly skilled electricians are the best in the business, setting the highest safety standards in the electrical industry. So when you're planning your next industrial, commercial, or residential project, choose an IBEW Local 98 union contractor. Learn more at ibew98.org.
field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on three. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
This is a key. It's a family tree. It's a pair of wings. It's a secret handshake. And a ticket to anywhere in the world. It's more than a uniform. It's the door to a world most people only dream of. There's Strong, and then there's Army Strong. Try it on at GoArmy.com.
Welcome back. National Football Show, Dan Sileo. Programming note. Tomorrow, Hall of Famer Morton Anderson will join us. What was it like to put that gold jacket on? Getting that knock on the door. You're a Pro Football Hall of Famer. Every kid growing up that plays that sport one day wants to hear that knock on the door. You dream about having that knock on the door. You know? What was it like for him? And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I think there's only 2 place kickers that are in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Jan Stenerud, and I believe it's Morton. I think when Morton left the game, I think he was the all-time leading scorer in pro football history. If I'm not mistaken, I know that Adam Vinatieri has since broken that. And Vinatieri is going to be a slam dunk Hall of Famer as well. And, you know, I kid a lot about, you know, talking about whether or not kickers should be in the Hall of Fame. Let's be candid. The point differential in the National Football League's 3 points. It just tells you how important was special teams and field goal kicking in Tom Brady's career. Right? 3 of those 7. I mean, you could really put it at the foot of Adam Vinatieri when you're talking about, you know, clutch kicks. And how about the tuck game too? You know, when he had a kick in that inclement weather up in New England against the Raiders. I mean, you're talking importance, especially in a city like New England, or when you're in a place like Pittsburgh or Philly where the weather, or Green Bay where the weather is horrific. Your special teams and field goal kicking have to be A+, not B. You're never going to win a Super Bowl if you have B special teams and a C kicker. You're never going to win like that. You can't. As I said, point differential is so close in the league, and with the way that they make these new rules and everything that is so, you know, wanting to have parity in the sport, you have to make sure that you have a spectacular kick. Watch this. Pass rusher, corners, quarterback, and O-line are essential in having a successful football season. I don't care what level you're talking, college or pro. Have to have that. All right. I do want to mention Aaron Rodgers here. So Aaron Rodgers was asked the question. I think he was playing in that golf tournament up in Lake Tahoe. By the way, I love that event. You know, all the sports celebrities. Charles Barkley played in it. I saw Patrick Mahomes. I saw Travis Kelce. I like that event. I've actually gone to it, not been in it. I've actually gone to that thing. It's just a really cool event that you get a chance to see some of the – and Steph Curry can play, man. I mean, he's really good. Tony Romo's good. So, I mean, yeah, man, I think John Smoltz, too, man, was up there on the leaderboard. Anyway, so he was asked a question about, once again, how this is going to play out up in Green Bay. He says over the next couple of weeks. So he's going to run it right to the start gate, which means this guy had any issues about playing. I mean, how about this? Is there still 10% out there doing this? Well, there's still a shot this guy might not play because of how quirky he is. I'm going to only put 10% that he doesn't play. And I'll say this to you. If he doesn't play, I think he doesn't play ever again. I think he just puts his hand up He goes, I'm out. I'm going to go into a different part of my life. He's got the money in the bank. He doesn't really need to do anything else. It's all set up for him. You know, he can get into doing Jeopardy. Maybe they have him. I don't know. Or he could probably get into just doing NFL football and being a broadcaster for NFL and do that. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, in my opinion, 90% he's going to be playing. All right. Krause, appreciate it. Cal, really appreciate it. Thank you so much for coming aboard. By the way, if you missed any of the show, go over to the JAKIB Media channel, 4 to 6 Eastern time. We catch you Monday through Friday. Till tomorrow, we shall see you on the